geek, bullied at school, but the brightest boy in the school. And when Rowan had finished his schooling, he just went on to Oxford University, the greatest university in the world, so they say, and he started his study because he was a bright boy. But Rowan hadn't been there very long, and he thought, I'm not really into study. I'm not really into academia. I just want to be an actor. He thought, well, come on, you're at the best uni in the world. The world is at your feet, and you just want to be an actor. But that was what was on his heart. He just wanted to be an actor. That was what he was inclined to. And the thing was, when he started to act, his stutter disappeared. Not that he said many words, but he created his own persona and capitalised on the fact that he looked a bit funny, talked a bit funny, moved a bit funny, and Rowan Atkinson became Mr. Bean and launched himself on the national and international stage. Now, we've been talking for a number of weeks about the matter of the heart. What's on our heart? We've been looking at different characters in the Old Testament in particular, although last week we looked at Paul. Looking at different characters and seeing what their heart was, what moved them, what motivated them, what inclined them to do a particular thing. And today it's my task to speak about King Solomon. King Solomon and what moved him, what motivated him to be a nation builder, to be someone who acted out his life on the international stage, someone who was bigger than most other kings. King Solomon, one of the greatest kings of all his time, lived about 950 BC, a great king from another great king, his father David. But everything about Solomon was big, larger than life, bigger than everyone else around him. And so this morning we're looking at a bit of a giant, someone who was revered by most people, visited by other kings from around the world, famously by the Queen of Sheba, Solomon the king. His heart inclination was to be a nation builder. If there was something needed building, Solomon would build it. First of all, he tackled his royal palace and built this amazing structure, not just a palace, but a palace at that time wasn't just where the king had a bedroom and lived. A palace at that time was where the country was governed from, where the Supreme Court met, because the king was not only the king, he was the judge, he was the ruler, and so he built his royal palace. But it was such a palace it took 13 years to build, which is a bit of time. Brought in materials from all around that part of the world. Then he built a temple, and it took 7 years to build this amazing temple of Solomon. And then he built a wall around Jerusalem, and a wall at that time was security. He put security in place for his city and his people, and it was the biggest security asset. He amassed horses and chariots, hundreds and hundreds of them, and built special accommodation for the horses and storage for the chariots. He made Israel the biggest it has ever been. We read in Chronicles that Solomon extended the empire of Israel from Gaza on the Mediterranean Sea right across to the Euphrates River in Iraq. And that took in the countries, today's countries of Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and all the way across to the border, or the Euphrates that flows through Iraq. The biggest Israel's ever been. And I could go on and on. You could read it for yourself in Chronicles and Kings. But one night, Solomon had a dream. And Christine just read that to us from 1 Kings chapter 3, where the Lord appeared to Solomon one night in a dream. And God said to him, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." An open-ended question. Ask for whatever you want. This is God speaking. I'll give you whatever you want. And Solomon replied, "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong." This is the king, this is the leader, and he asked for what he needed to do his work. He asked for discernment and he asked for wisdom. And the Lord's reply was, "I will give you a wise and discerning heart so that there will never have been anyone like you." And what sort of an answer is that? Nor will there ever be. In your lifetime, you will have no equal among kings. If God says to us, ask for a gift will be given, and it's a gift to be used. And one of the first tests of Solomon's wisdom occurred just after that dream when he was confronted by a conundrum. Two ladies of the night visited him or put their case before Solomon. Both lived in the same house and both had babies at the same time. And one night the one mother rolled onto her baby in the bed, smothered him, and he died. And in her slyness, she thought, "What'll I do?" So she took her dead baby, went to the room, the bed where the other lady was with her baby, and swapped babies. So in the morning when they both woke up, here's one lady with a dead baby, and she looks at it and says, "This isn't mine. This isn't my child." And realised that the other one had swapped, and she said, No, this is my baby. I swear, this is my baby. That's your baby. Your baby died, not mine. So the case was brought to King Solomon to work out whose baby it was. How do you work out between babies? Whose is whose? Most babies look alike. I was embarrassed in the park this week, and I was away with my granddaughter, and this lovely little baby was there, and I said, "What a lovely little boy." And of course, it was a girl. So here are these two mothers with one baby, one living baby, in the presence of King Solomon. And whose is it? Well, you say it's yours, you say it's yours. Look, there's only one way to decide. Get a sword, bring in a sword, and we'll slice the baby down the middle, and you can have half each, and both will be happy. And of course, the mother who was not the mother said, "Okay, that sounds fair enough." But the mother who was the mother said, No, please no, give the baby to her." And of course, in Solomon's wisdom, he said, "She's the mother. She's the mother. Give the baby to the right mother and get out of here." Now, how do we relate to someone like Solomon? How do we relate to the king of all the known world at that time surrounding his own country? Great magnificence and splendour and pomp and ceremony, and how do we relate to that? The truth is that Solomon reigned for 40 years and died, succeeded by a son who wasn't as good a king as he was. Built a temple that lasted for another 300 years and was knocked down by the Babylonians. The royal palace was knocked down also by the Babylonians. Israel, that was so expansive in size, reduced to its normal size, a bit bigger than what it is now. But the thing that was uppermost in Solomon's heart was what he asked God for. He asked for wisdom greatest thing he did was to learn God's wisdom in such a way that it says in the Bible that all the kings of the earth sought audience with Solomon to hear the wisdom God had put in his heart. If anyone had a problem or an issue, didn't matter who they were, they said, let's go to Solomon. Let's ask him. He's the man of wisdom. And what he did, because of the wisdom that was entrusted to him, he wrote it down, made sure that it was all there in writing. He passed it on for generations to come so that generations would be blessed by it. And we are the beneficiaries of the wisdom of Solomon. So long after he lived, we look to Solomon still for his wisdom. And you say, well, where do we do that? There are 3 books in the Bible that were written by King Solomon that are what we call wisdom books. The book of Proverbs, the great compendium of his wisdom. He wrote, we're told, 3,000 proverbs, 3,000 sayings, 3,000 things that tell us how to act and what to do. They're not all in the book of Proverbs, but there's a lot of them there. He wrote the book of Ecclesiastes that challenges us to ask questions to gain wisdom. And he wrote the book of what's called the Song of Solomon, or the Song of Songs. So just briefly want to comment on how to find wisdom, or what sort of wisdom we get now, 3,000 and a bit, about 3,000 years after he lived. How do we still understand and receive this wisdom? The Song of Songs, or Song of Solomon, is a love poem. Nothing wrong. It's good to get a love poem and read it now and again. The thing is, Solomon had 700 wives. I'm not sure if that's wise. He had 300 concubines, so 1,000 ladies altogether were Solomon's. And you think, how on earth could a man with so many women in his life write a poem about love and intimacy, which is what the Song of Solomon is all about? Such a personal, intimate story of love in marriage. How does one man write a poem about love in marriage when he's got 700? But this poem tells us about one in particular. And really, having so many wives wasn't about intimacy. It was about status. If you're the greatest king in the world, you also have the biggest harem, or the biggest group of women living in your palace, crowded kitchen. But yeah, it's about status. But yet Solomon, in wisdom, was able to relate to one in particular. And we read that she was a coloured girl. We think from Africa. That was one of his wives, and he just loved her. And she was special to him. And he expressed his feelings to her. And in the poem, she co-wrote it. She expressed her feelings to him. And the key principle in this amazing love poem, the Song of Solomon, is I'm his and he is mine, and his banner over me is love. And here, look, if you would like to read something, wisdom that will enhance and bless your marriage, read it, the Song of Solomon. Secondly, he wrote Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is one of those books that has lots of questions in it. Why this, why that, which are life questions. But one of the big themes in Ecclesiastes is time. Time. What time are we in? How do we spend our time? What are we meant to do with our time? He wrote, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. And then he went on to say, a time to plant, a time to heal, a time to build, a time to laugh, a time to search, a time to give up, a time to be silent, a time to speak. There's a time for every matter under heaven. And we all experience those emotions or those actions, and there is a time for them, a time to love and a time to mourn. And he said, the wise heart will know the proper time and procedure. In other words, in the time that we're in, we then will know what is the wise thing to do, the proper thing to do in that time, or the proper procedure for every matter. And just one last little thing he wrote in Ecclesiastes was, and this sounds like a bit airy-fairy, but cast your bread upon the waters, for after many days you'll find it again. Or throw something out and then it'll come back to you. Give it its time. Just deal with it. Put it out there, whatever it is, put it out there, and it will come back and return and be a blessing to you. So just that book of Ecclesiastes he wrote to answer questions again, life questions with wisdom. And then finally Proverbs, which has to be one of my favourite books in the Bible. Proverbs with some big themes, touches on everything almost, or maybe not even almost, touches on everything. One of the major themes in Proverbs is using our resources, using our money, investing our money, and investing through giving. I received a Christmas card this year. I received a few, but that was one from my daughter-in-law, Liz. Liz is the Chief Financial Officer of the TIA Fund in Australia. And I got this card, the gift of a toilet. I got the gift of a toilet for you. In your honour, I've donated a useful gift that gives hygiene, dignity and better health for all. Now, I've already got 3 toilets in my home. I didn't put them all in there. They were there when I bought the house. But it's hard to believe, but 3.6 billion people around the world lack access to adequate toilets. TIA Fund's partners work with communities to build toilets, hand washing stations and other vital infrastructure, improving health, hygiene, safety and dignity. So the gift of a toilet is one way of resourcing people. 3.5 billion people haven't got the privilege that we have, or the privy that we have. Now, that expresses the desire, as it says in Proverbs, to honour the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. And if you were to get the book of Proverbs out and read through, there's something for everybody. Something there for everybody. How to bring up kids. How to get along with your neighbours. How to plan for your future and be secure. How to control anger and resentment. How to make a friend, how to be a friend. How to choose and use right words. How to live moderately. How to react when you're mistreated and when you're abused. Look, Proverbs just goes on and on. A few weeks ago, Pastor Steve said, I'm going to give you a challenge. I don't know if you remember him saying this or not, but he said, read the Bible, commit to a regular Bible reading plan or a Bible reading pattern. Now, he didn't say what to read or where to read, but if you're sitting in this congregation this morning, you're thinking, look, I really do need to start some sort of regular way of reading through the Bible. Where do I start? I'd like to suggest that you start by reading the book of Proverbs. It'll just give you what you need. I can guarantee that whatever you need right now, there'll be a proverb about it. There'll be something there about what you need. Because it is God's inspired wisdom through Solomon. So 31 chapters, one a day, you've done a month. I'd suggest that's a good way to start. Just a suggestion, just put it out there. If you don't have any regular pattern or you'd like to, try with Proverbs and you'll get enough wisdom to last you more than a year. Now, for those who are sitting there thinking, look, he's preached a sermon, got near the end, hasn't mentioned Jesus. Did anyone think that? I haven't mentioned Christ or Jesus, but I have. When Solomon wrote these words in Proverbs chapter 8, he said this: "The Lord brought me forth as the first of his works." He's speaking about wisdom. The Lord brought me wisdom forth as the first of his works. I was appointed from eternity, from the beginning, before the world began. I was there, wisdom, when he set the heavens in place. I was the craftsman at his side. In other words, he's saying wisdom was like a person. Wisdom is personified. That they were. Wisdom was what was with God when God did the amazing work of creation and put everything in place. Now, he used words that later in the New Testament are only used of Jesus. Only used of Jesus. John 1 verse 1, "In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God and the Word was God. By him all things were created." All things were created by him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Christ for us has become wisdom from God. Now, what Solomon is saying is all this wisdom, he didn't know that this was about Jesus. He foretold that, he prophesied that in a sense, that what wisdom did, wisdom was personified, embodied in the very person of Jesus. He is the one who carries all this reservoir, this amazing reservoir of wisdom and God's thoughts. So we have now, we're able to open up even like a book like Proverbs, and it's all about Jesus and how Jesus would do things, how Jesus would act, how Jesus would respond, how Jesus would express it, and that enables us to do what we need to also. This wisdom from God, wisdom in Christ, has been bequeathed to us, gifted to us for our blessing, in our blessing now. Thank you, Cindy. If anyone would like to receive prayer for help in reading through the Bible, in what to read, how to read it, I'll be here at the front to pray with you, and so will others to bring blessing to you. Thank you.